Yes. Good afternoon. If you can please express your presence verbally as I go through the roll call. So I'm going to do the roll call for the CCP Executive Committee. John Minu for Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office.
Yes, I'm here.
Jeremy Zubai representing Sue Chapman Public Defenders.
Here.
Chris Rule for Judge Julie Culver.
Here.
Todd Keating, Chief Probation Officer.
Here.
Lori Medina for Department of Social Services. Absent. Janine Piccioni or representative for the District Attorney's Office.
Yeah, it's Berkeley Brannon. I'm here. Is my audio working okay?
Yes, I could.
Good. And with the board's and the chair's permission, I'm going to have to leave at 3:30. So sorry, at 4. So I've got Assistant DA Doug Matheson, who's also here, and he would take over for me when I have to leave the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So Chief, you do have a quorum with 5 members present. And I will go ahead and do the roll call for the CCP Advisory Committee now. Nick Chulos, absent. Chris Donnelly with Workforce Development.
Present.
Deneen Gus or representative with Monterey County Office of Education. Absent. Robin McCrae with Community Human Services.
Here.
I see Lori Medina just logged on. Hi, Lori.
Hi, yes, Lori Medina. Hi, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Pamela Patterson
Here.
and Lucero Robles.
Here.
Let the record reflect the following are not present: Nick Chulos and the representative for Maclea.
Right. Do we have any public comment today on matters not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move into the consent calendar, which is the approval of the minutes from the November 19th meeting. Does anybody have any comment or discussion on the minutes for that meeting? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of November 19th, 2020?
This
So
is
moved.
Lori Medina. Move approval.
Second.
Berkeley with the second. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes. John Minu,
Aye.
Jeremy Zubai,
Aye.
Chris Roll,
Aye.
Todd Keating,
Aye.
Lori Medina,
Aye.
Berkeley Brannon.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We'll move into scheduled items. First up is receiving a fiscal update on the AB 109 funding. I'll refer you to the staff report, which will be presented by Finance Manager Don Souza. Don, take it away.
Good afternoon, Chair and Partnership. I'll be presenting the staff fiscal update on funding for the current and projected fiscal years. At the end of my presentation, the chair will check for questions. Thank you. Bear with me as I share my screen. Yolanda, can you confirm that everyone can see that?
Yes, we can We can see your.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, John, for the thumbs up. So for the current fiscal year, the projections contain the staff report and the handout have been updated and reflect the governor's proposed budget, which was released in early January. That budget update provided some positive revisions to the public safety realignment base account and growth sub-account projections for the current year and future years. Note that the public safety realignment funds are funded by sales tax revenue and vehicle license fees. It is also important to keep in mind that these numbers are projections, have changed significantly in the past, as we all know, and that the impacts from COVID-19 continue to make it challenging to project future funding revenue streams. And then to add to this, these revenue levels will be revisited in the May revision, which is usually released between the 12th and 15th of May. So we're going to get another set of numbers again from the state in May. For Monterey County, the projected annual funding for the current fiscal year is $14.6 million, and that's represented in this column here. This amount includes the planning grant and the special one-time realignment backfill provided in response to the pandemic of $856,000. This new projection is an overall funding increase of 3.6% from the prior year. At fiscal year end, if the current year's budget is fully spent, fund balance is projected to be around 7.8 million, and the annual reserve balance will be at 2.2 million. I'm going to move on now to revenue projections in future years. The funding projection for fiscal year 21-22 is a total amount of 15 million. This is comprised of slightly increased base amount of 14.2 million, plus a planning grant and newly anticipated growth funding in the amount of 688,000. Based on the governor's proposed budget and due to the ongoing impacts of COVID-19 on the revenues, future growth funding is currently not projected to be realized in the following fiscal years. The fund balance at 21-22 year end is projected to be 8.5 million. The 8.5 million fund balance projection assumes the CCP approves the fiscal year 21-22 recommended budget of 16.5 million being presented today, and that budget is fully spent. The funding projection for 22-23 assumes a flat main allocation, no growth funding, and expects the planning grant to be funded for a total annual amount of 14.3 million. Due to no growth funding, as described earlier, this is a potential 4.5% decrease in the outlying year. As with the current year funding, fiscal year 21-22 projections will be revisited with the May revise. So in conclusion, and with the prior funding updates provided during this challenging time, it is recommended that the strategy of carefully managing the program's resources continue in order to maintain the same level of services for as long as possible. This concludes the staff report on projected funding and fund balances.
Thank you, Don. Do we have any public comment on the presentation? Any discussion from the CCP? Berkeley, nothing?
Not a thing, thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you, Don. We'll move on to item B, which is a request from the Sheriff's Department to augment this year's budget for $100,000 for the implementation of the technology infrastructure. And I believe Captain Moses, are you presenting this?
I am, yes, thank you.
Okay, take it away.
So we asked a couple of months ago, we asked for our funding for the Guardian program, 246,000, I believe it was. At that time, when we were approved for the funding and went into implementation, and we found out that we were not going to be able to share the access points, the Wi-Fi access points that we currently have in the jail with that we have for Tailmate, because Tailmate actually has a proprietary interest in those, so we're not able to access them. So that led to a discussion on how we're going to get Wi-Fi access for Guardian throughout the facility. The plan came up that we would have to install access points throughout the jail. A rough estimate was given by County IT of $100,000 to do that installation. So that's what we're asking for, is for that 100,000 to be able to complete this project. Again, it was on my side where I didn't ask the correct question when it was happening. I just made an assumption that we'd be able to use those Wi-Fi access points and didn't find out until after. If it had been prior, if I had done a little bit more homework and found that out, our original request would have been for $100,000 more than what we originally asked for. So we're asking to supplement this program with $100,000 to get the Wi-Fi set up.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item? No. Any discussion from the CCP?
I do have a question. Joe, can you refresh my recollection? What is Guardian?
Guardian is a system of inmate movement tracking. So it will track all of our welfare checks. It tracks all of our counts, feeding time, basically any kind of inmate movement. It tracks through a handheld device versus where right now we currently use pen and paper. So this is going to cut down on, will help us better track our inmates. And then it will help us cut down when we come to the lawsuit and we have to make reports to our monitors. That'll be automatically generated instead of using manpower to do that.
How does it track the inmates?
Several different ways. Inmates are given an armband when they come into custody. Currently, that armband will change into having an RFID tag inside the armband. So we will use a handheld device. It's an Android type device that we will scan the armband and be able to track their movement that way. And then also inside of the cells and anywhere that we keep inmates, there are tags, RFID tags on the walls, and we can monitor the welfare checks and the movement of inmates in and out of different housing locations through that system as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Can I get a motion to approve the sheriff's funding request for $100,000 augmentation in this year's budget?
So moved.
Jeremy with the first. Can I get a second?
Second.
Berkeley with the second. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, John Minu,
Aye.
Jeremy Zubai,
Aye.
Chris Roll,
Abstain.
Todd Keating,
Okay.
Lori Medina, Lori Medina,
Aye.
and Berkeley Brandon.
Aye.
Passes. Thank you. Move on to item C, which is approval of the recommended fiscal year 21-22 public safety realignment budget. And I will turn it over again to Don Souza, who will present this item.
Good afternoon again, Chair and Partnership. At the end of the recommended budget presentation, the chair will check for questions. Additionally, probation would like to thank the county departmental finance managers, support staff, and department heads for their assistance in providing their budget details and program insight when I requested. For this report, please refer to the recommended budget handout in your packet. It's the last 3 pages. It's the last one and has 3 pages to it. I'm not going to screen share unless anybody has any questions for this one, because my screen's too small to see 3 pages all at once. So the 21-22 fiscal year recommended budget totals $16.5 million and includes 56.5 positions. The presented budget funds the program at its existing service levels. Currently, there are no augmentations being requested to increase service levels. The recommended budget of $16.5 million is an overall decrease of $200,000 from the current fiscal year. This decrease is primarily due to the removal of the current year one-time budget items that total $612,000, which is offset by an overall increase of $414,000 for county cost pressures for staffing and program infrastructure costs, which equates to an operational 2.6% increase over the prior year. The proposed recommended budget is funded by an annual revenue of 15.1 million and use of restricted fund balance of 1.4 million. Approval of the 21-22 budget would leave an estimated fund balance of 6.2 million in addition to the projected reserve of 2.3 million. This is assuming the budget is fully spent. It is recommended that the CCP approve the Public Safety Realignment Program budget for fiscal year 21-22 as presented. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Don. Do we have any public comment on this item? No. Any discussion from the CCP?
Yes, Mr. Chair, one question for Don. Don, I did review the chart closely, and it appears that the only change in the number of FTEs being funded for the next fiscal year compared to the current fiscal year is a reduction of 0.5 FTE in behavioral health for the DUI treatment court staffing.
That is correct.
Do you have any information, or I guess I could also ask Lucero about the sort of the background for that change?
So as far as the budget is concerned, Chris, the case manager goes from this current fiscal year of 1 FTE down to 0.30 FTE. And the psychiatric social worker goes from 0.5 FTE for this current fiscal year to 0.70 FTE. So that's the actual change on paper. I can't speak to the programmatic change.
Okay. And so I guess I do have, then the question would be for Lucero, does that reflect a programmatic change as well, or is that just, or is it actual reduction in the staffing for the DUI court?
If I may, this is Fabricio Chombo, Finance Manager with the Behavioral Health Bureau.
Okay.
So to answer to your question, so this was an effort to keep our budget in line with what was approved for the current fiscal year. So from our perspective, there will be no impact to services. It's just trying to align those costs so that we landed on the same funding request.
So there's currently, in the current fiscal year, there's one FTE one total FTE of behavioral health staff devoted to DUI court rather than 1.5.
Yeah, so under the current fiscal year, it's the 1 FTE case manager plus the half of the psychiatric social worker too.
Okay. I guess my question is getting to what is the actual level of staffing as opposed to what, compared to what is actually being funded. And because I haven't heard recently exactly what the level of staffing for behavioral health is for the DUI court. And it may be just 1 FTE already, I don't know, but that's really why I'm asking the question.
Melanie, I don't know if you know the details on who's actually working on the program.
Sure. This is Melanie with Behavioral Health. I'm happy to chime in. Our staffing levels are remaining the same. We have had one case manager, or social worker 3, as we refer to them, staffing the DUI court. And we have had our psychiatric social workers split between DUI court and drug treatment court. So our staff that are there are remaining the same. It's just the volume of the workload is much greater in DUI court than in drug court in terms of the numbers of participants in the program. And so our staff are remaining the same. As I think Dawn had mentioned, it was just shifting from what was being budgeted through this funding, but our staffing levels remain the same, and we're there to provide the same level of service.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's the practical question, or the practical reason for my question. So thank you, Melanie. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions on this item?
I have a comment, maybe a question.
Okay.
We'll see how it comes out of my mouth. Um, So I noticed that the behavioral health outpatient residential treatment funding remains the same. Whereas the behavioral health staffing cost, it's noted that they're going to go up and there's an increase. It's flat for providers. And I know provider rates are not expected to increase. So that money will theoretically buy the same amount of services, but it's going to put undue pressure on the providers that we're not going to be able to cover increased staff costs. So you just need to know that that's going to put a big pressure on your provider system to continue to provide quality substance abuse services. And correct me if I'm wrong, Lucero, but that's the way it looks here in this budget.
Yeah, I actually, right now have not had a chance to take a look at this. I'd have to look at it to make a comment.
Okay. And I do know the last couple of years, providers have lost money providing these services, not just CHS as a provider, across the board. So you should be aware that the increased or mounting pressure is being put on the provider community to provide substance abuse services. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Can I get a motion to approve the recommended fiscal year 21-22 public safety realignment budget?
So
John Mino,
moved.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
A roll call vote, please.
John Minu,
Aye.
Jeremy Zubai,
Aye.
Chris Rule,
Abstain.
Todd Keating,
Aye.
Lori Medina,
Aye.
Berkeley Brannon,
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to our last item, which is the announcement that the CCP quarterly statistical report for October 2020 through December 31st, 2020 is posted on the CCP website, and you can see on your agenda what the website is there. The next CCP, it's currently scheduled for February 17th, 2021, which was a placeholder in case the budget did not pass. So since the budget passed, we will cancel that meeting. And the next scheduled meeting is November 17th, 2021 at 3:30. And with that, we are concluded. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add or discuss at this time? Boy, everybody's quiet. Berkeley, we got you out in time. All right, well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
I just want to say it was wonderful work by the chair. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.